Story happening right now at 5. One person is hurt after a plant explosion up in San Jacinto County.
The explosion happened at Sound Resource Solutions. That's an industrial plant. It's located in Shepherd. That's about an hour northeast of Houston. All of this taking place just after 8 o'clock this morning. Now, the company president tells us the explosion was sparked by a forklift incident.
One worker was hurt, suffering minor burns, but is expected to be okay. We do have team coverage looking into what happened as well as the aftermath, starting with our Jason Miles, who was one of the first reporters on the scene. Jason.
Hey there, Lynn. Yeah, our jaws kind of dropped driving up 59 this morning toward this fire. We've certainly covered large industrial fires before, but mostly down in the refinery corridor. Fortunately, in this case, the fire was brought under control in a relatively short amount of time. Take another look at some Air 11 video we shot earlier today. The helicopter arriving not long after we first heard about this fire. That huge plume of smoke, vertical at times, horizontal at others, which is why areas as far away as Livingston were on alert as well because of the potential hazardous air. Sound Resource Solutions, again, is the name of the company, which deals with non-corrosive chemicals, according to its CEO. However, that does not mean they're not potentially hazardous. That's why a shelter in place, which has since been lifted, was ordered and a nearby school initially evacuated.
We think the worst of this is gone. We'll now work with people like the TCEQ and the EPA, and we'll make sure that any remediation work that needs to be done is going to be done in the right way so that there's no effect on the community that we've loved for 14 years.
The company employs about 40 people, but only 19 were on site when this explosion occurred. Again, only one injury. A male employee suffered minor burns and is expected to be released from the hospital as soon as this evening. Preliminarily, it appears a so-called forklift incident, as you mentioned, sparked this blaze. Now, the response to the fire pretty overwhelming. In fact, according to the local sheriff, 18 fire departments responded from 4 different counties. Many of those personnel still here at this staging area, which is the parking lot of an Exxon convenience store. In a nice gesture, that store offering emergency personnel and law enforcement free snacks and drinks this afternoon. Reporting live from Shepherd, Jason Miles, KHOU 11 News.
All right, Jason, thank you for the update there.
Our Marcelina Benito is live along FM 1127, not far from a private school that had to be evacuated. Marcelino, you spoke to the owner of that school who had to get dozens of children to safety.
Yeah, Mia, she described the evacuation as a caravan. They were only able to get out thanks to a neighbor who opened up his ranch, opened up those gates so people could escape through their pasture. I want you to take a look at some of the photos that Amy Nichols shared with me earlier today. Amy is the owner of Wildwood Academy. It's about 1.5 miles away from where the explosion happened. She says she and the students heard several explosions and then saw the black smoke start to climb into the air outside their window. At first, they were instructed to shelter in place, but then decided they needed to evacuate the area. They loaded the students into several vehicles and literally caravanned out through a property owner's pasture. She describes it as scary, but says plans were in place to keep everyone safe. All the students were taken to Shepherd Middle School, where they were reunited with their families.
That was the thing I was most concerned about when I realized, like, yeah, we're having an issue this morning. There's an emergency. I was immediately thinking about, like, the heart of the parents. I knew they wanted to get back, but it wasn't safe for them to get back. So at the site, most of them at that point, they'd kind of like collected themselves. They knew the kids were safe. They knew we were en route. And so a few of the moms were, they were shaken up. Of course, that's their baby. I'm just grateful that everybody's okay and there weren't any deaths or serious injuries.
Now, we saw lots of residents who live along FM 1127 evacuating this morning through that same pasture. This evening, we've seen people make their way back into this area, but we are told just a few minutes ago by law enforcement that the owner of that property has closed those gates, so there's no way in and out of this area at the moment. Folks that I talked to today say nothing like this has ever happened before, but they do have lots of questions about what exactly happened and what went up in that smoke near their homes. I'll send it back to you in Houston.
Very, very fortunate that those kids were able to get out of there and they're reunited with their family. Marcelino, thank you.
We are learning the chemicals that were burned are not highly toxic, but the smoke can still lead to possible respiratory issues. Dr. Pushan Jani, a pulmonologist with UT Health Houston, says people with respiratory issues like COPD or asthma should consider staying away from Shepherd for at least a day. He also adds people who do not have pre-existing breathing conditions can also be affected.
There are some patients who can develop long-term consequences, but that fortunately is a very small number of patients. Most patients will have airway irritation leading to wheezing and acute symptoms of nasal congestion, shortness of breath, that cough that goes away within a few hours, if not days.
If symptoms persist after a few days, you are advised to see a doctor.
We are taking a closer look at the safety record of Sound Resource Solutions and whether the company is in compliance with state and federal laws. Our investigative reporter Jeremy Rogowski joining us with more on the company's background. Jeremy?
Well, I'm the company's owner today saying, quote, we work in a dangerous environment, handling a variety of oils, solvents, acids, and alcohol products. But a check of records with OSHA, that's the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, revealed no violations at this facility. We also looked at TCEQ, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, as well as the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, and we found just one item. That was back in 2022. Records show a toxic release of about 7,000 pounds of a solvent called xylene. But in that issue, no violation reports were handed down. No enforcement action was taken. Glenn?
Working in a dangerous environment indeed. Jeremy, thank you. Let's check in.